I was having difficulty holding my head up. My neck was very weak and my head would plump down, and I realized that I was unable to control my head, either holding it up, turning it side to side, and I was starting to have some difficulty with my swallowing.
その ALS と診断された時、どういった、お仕事をされたり、どういった生活をされていたんでしょうか。
Well, I was in a partnership with two other people, and I had started a company in which I designed and manufactured outdoor patio furniture. And we expanded the business quite rapidly, and in fact we were selling throughout the United States and the Caribbean. Yes, I wasn't really familiar with the terminology of amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, or ALS, or as it's more referred to in Europe, motor neuron disease. So the doctor, the neurologist, gave my wife and myself some literature to read about, and it explained about the disease, how it was going to affect my body, how my life would change, and how I would end up paralyzed and unable to move any part of my body other than my eyes, and that I would be required to be connected to feeding tube and a ventilator to breathe for me. That was very devastating news.
ご家族の反応はどうでしたでしょうか、その時には。
Well, I only shared the information with my wife at that time. We had a young daughter who was 7 years old. And then I had 4 older children from a previous marriage. But the news was so devastating and so overwhelming that we decided not to place this burden on anyone else, and that my wife and I would try to figure out what we could do, because we just did not want to accept the fact that the doctor said that I had no choice, that I must die of this illness, and probably within 2 years.
ALS と診断されて、病院ではどういう治療を開始されていたんでしょうか。
Well, it's quite interesting you use the word treatment, because that's what I thought I was going to receive from my neurologist. But it turned out that each time I visited, he would do the same tests over again, and then write down which of my symptoms had worsened, and really was not giving me any treatment. It was more of collecting statistical information.
それでしばらくしてエドガー・ケイシー療法というものを知られたとお聞きしていますけれども、その発症されてからエドガー・ケイシー療法を始めるまでにどれぐらいの期間があったんでしょうか。
Well, originally, of course, I wasn't aware of the Casey remedies, and having grown up believing that if you were ill, you went to your doctor, he would give you a prescription or treatment and you would get better, and so that's what I believed. And as time passed by, maybe a period of 3 months, I became very discouraged because I realized that what was said in the literature that had been given to my wife and myself was true, that the neurologist had no treatment, really could give me no medicine or therapy, and basically was just recording how much worse I was each time I saw him.
じゃあエドガー・ケイシー療法を初めてお聞きになった時、どんな印象を受けたでしょうか？
I was very skeptical. I considered myself a conservative person who believed in things that I could see or touch or that had been proven scientifically. So when I first heard about the Edgar Cayce readings and the things that Edgar Cayce had been doing for many years, I did not believe in them, and I did not pay any attention to the recommendation from my daughter to get the Edgar Cayce reading on my illness. There is a very important point that I want to make, and that is that the true cause of the symptoms of ALS are because the motor neurons in the body, which are located in the brain and in the spinal column, and those are the neurons that control the movement of the muscles and the parts of the body. So there is not just one illness, ALS. There are approximately 24 motor neuron diseases, which ALS is in that 24, and the symptoms are all very similar. And the neurologists have no test to prove, or can they tell by examination, which form of motor neuron disease a patient has. So they have a tendency to just put everyone into the worst category of ALS. And they don't explain to the patient that there are many other forms. And what happens to the patient is they believe what the doctor believes and tells them. And when they hear the doctor, a person who they trust for healing, telling them that they have the worst form of motor neuron disease and that there is nothing that can be done, then they are really being pre-programmed to self-destruct because they believe what the doctor says is going to happen to them, and in the time frame that he uses, they believe that so strongly that their internal subconscious of their body starts to shut down the body and follow the beliefs that the doctor has given. And that is very, very dangerous to the patient to believe that they're only one type.
ということはですね、デイビッド・アトキンソンさんのように2年以内に亡くなるというふうな診断をされたとしても、例えばもっと長く生きる可能性もあるし、イギリスのホーキンソン博士のようにもう30年40年と長く生きる可能性のある ALS もあるわけですよね。
Yes, that is correct. And not only Stephen Hawkins, but I have documented many other individuals who have lived 20, 25, 30 years after diagnosis when they had been told they only had a few years to live. And that has been proven again scientifically by Dr. Herbert Benson at Harvard Medical School here in the United States, that what we believe about our illness or any illness has a direct effect on how that illness is going to progress and how that illness is going to affect the human body and thought process.
エドガー系視療法について聞いた時にそれに非常に懐疑的だった、信用しなかったって今おっしゃってたんですけども、どういうきっかけでじゃあエドガー系視療法をやろうと思われたんでしょうか。
Well, my motivation was that each day my illness was progressing and I was getting worse, just like the doctor had told me that I would. And I got to the point where I had very little use of my arms or hands. I could barely walk and needed help and was losing the ability to eat food. And at that point, I decided, well, the medical community has no answers to help. Edgar Casey says he does have an answer to help. Therefore, I decided to try it.